Welcome. Welcome, Walt. Welcome, Jim. Hello, hello. Welcome, everyone, or as we say in different parts of the world, bienvenue, bienvenidos, caraboni, marhaban. So whether it's snowy and cold like it is here in the Northeast, or if you're about to start your summer break, welcome. We're going to keep everyone muted as we go through this call just to keep some of the background noise down. We've got a bunch of folks coming onto the call, but we'd love to see your face. So please feel free to turn on your camera, but also no pressure if you don't want to. This call is being recorded. We won't take any group photo until the end. This webinar is only being offered in English, but we do have live captions available. So you can click the CC button or the live transcript button at the bottom of your screen to turn on captions. We know there are folks here from all over the world. I'm seeing Ilya from Tanzania and Ali from Egypt. So we'll try to speak slowly to ensure that the transcription picks everything up to support accessibility. So put in the chat if you're having any trouble hearing us or understanding us, and we'll just keep reminding everyone to speak slowly. If you have any additional accessibility support, please message us in the chat. And let's get used to using the chat. I'm seeing a bunch of folks saying hello already. Just please introduce yourself in the chat, say your name, where you're from, your connection to T1 International or to diabetes, or anything else you'd like to share. I think that's it for tech. If you have any issues, please message us in the chat. Over the next hour, we're going to share some amazing stories of the work that our community has accomplished this year. We'll also be sharing a budget update and critical information for 2026. I'm really going to try to keep this to an hour because we can't fit it all in. There's so much exciting stuff happening. So let me just start off by introducing myself. My name is Shayna Casper. I'm T1 International's Executive Director. I've lived with type 1 diabetes for 13 years, and I was a part of the diabetes community for about 5 years before that when my little sister was diagnosed. I live in Vermont in the northeast corner of the US. I got involved with T1 International because having rationed insulin, I needed to find some diabetes community, but I didn't know that there was really any community for me because I saw so much of this community being funded by big pharma. And despite insulin being discovered over a century ago, only 3 insulin manufacturers have been controlling over 90% of the market, meaning that they control access to what we as patients need. And so I wanted to fight up against this abusive system and to find real meaningful structural solutions to the insulin access and affordability crisis. And so I joined T1 International about 4 years ago. And so who is T1 International? I'm going to get into that in just a second here. But just before I join, welcome. So many folks saying hi in the chat. I'm not even going to try to read them all out. There's so many folks here. But yeah, so it's T1 International. We are a nonprofit led by people with and impacted by diabetes for people with diabetes, and we're fighting for global healthcare equity. We support local communities by giving them the training, tools, community, and networks they need to stand up for their rights so that access to insulin and diabetes supplies becomes a reality for all. We believe in a world where everyone with diabetes, no matter where they live, has access to everything they need to survive and achieve their dreams. Oop, I know that this was going to be a problem. So here are our values at T1 International. We are patient-led, independent, transparent, inclusive, bold, and hopeful. So let's sit with these values just for a second. What value is really resonating with us today and why? Let us know that in the chat as well. So what value resonates with you? I'm going to move on to the next slide here as well, just to share a little bit about our campaigns in 2025 before we go into all the stories. So in 2025, we reworked our long-term strategic plan, and Melissa and Kendall will be sharing a little bit more about that later today on this call. But for 2025, these were our campaigns. So we worked on affordability and access, pushing for a world where no one has to spend any more than 5% of their income on insulin and glucose self-monitoring supplies, our Fight for 5 campaign. We fought for emergency access to insulin, Alex Law. We challenged big pharma by creating alternatives, by pushing for pharmaceutical manufacturing of the people and by the people and for the people, public pharma, and the patent reforms that we needed to be able to make that happen. And we fought for quality and equitable healthcare for all. So expanding pharmacists' scope of practice, so anyone can go into a pharmacy and access insulin, a right that many people already have all around the world, thank goodness. And enhancing care and access to medicines and supplies through other policies. So now let's look at all these values in the chat. So we're saying independent, no pharma influence. Thanks, Janice. Lots of patient leadership, like that feels really inspiring for folks. Independent, says Max. Inclusive, says Sarah. Um, Lots of folks saying patient-led, transparent. So thanks so much for sharing, thinking about those values and sharing what works for us today. I'm now going to hand it over to Chris to share about our biggest success of 2025. We're kicking it off.
Yeah, thanks, Shana.
Oop.
Hi, everyone. My name is Chris. I'm the Global Advocacy Manager here at T1 International. And this has just been my first year with the organization. I came to T1 International much the same as most of you. I live with type 1 diabetes. I've had it for about 12 years, actually over 12 years. And yeah, I got really into advocacy, research, and writing kind of on my own, and then slowly found T1 International through social media and really loved our transparency and how patient-led we were. And that just made me want to work for this amazing organization. And so over this past year, I've had the pleasure of meeting so many of you and getting to connect, and then also to lead our victory here on getting rapid-acting insulin analogues added to the World Health Organization's essential medicine list. And so that's a lot of big words. So we're going to break it down and figure out what that means and why this is such a huge victory. And so after, wow, look at that mic drop. I didn't even know that was possible. I don't know who did that, but that was pretty cool. Yeah, so after months of delays, we couldn't get anyone to take on submitting an application. So we decided to go ahead and draft and submit the application ourselves. And we had a lot of opposition coming our way. We had a whole WHO staff writing a letter of opposition against us. We had expert reviews that were both for and against our submission. And then we had a lot of, uh, people supporting this application, and the approval that we got to get onto the list comes after only one application submission, which was quite a change compared to long-acting insulin, which took 3 applications before it was finally added to the list. And so we hope that by adding this insulin to the WHO essential medicines list, that the countries will then add it to their own national essential medicines list to increase access and affordability for patients and getting more government procurement contracts and opening access overall. And this will help end the double standard in diabetes care, where patients in the global north have access to a basal bolus regimes, which is standard of care, and while lots of folks in the global south only really have the option of human insulins. And this is really critical, especially now that Novo Nordisk has started to discontinue human insulin pens around the globe. And so this victory really happened because of our mobilization. A lot of you advocates here on this call were a part of this, helping submit comments to the World Health Organization. We also submitted a petition with over 1,000 signatures from over 50 countries. And just we thank a lot of support of a generous major donor who helped get me to Geneva so that I could speak at the World Health Organization and hand over this petition in a really powerful and meaningful way. And so we know like a huge fight lies ahead of us. This is a really big, important step that we have won. And we're going to keep fighting to make sure that this is implemented around the world and that patients have access to the insulin they need. So we're celebrating this step today, and thank you to all of you who are a part of this, who've supported this. And now I'm going to hand it over to Heather to share more about some really amazing events that happened for World Diabetes Day this year.
Thank you, Chris. So my name is Heather Koga. I'm the Regional Advocacy Consultant, T1 International. I'm based in Zimbabwe, and I've had type 2 diabetes for 13 years. So I would like to talk about our World Diabetes Day activities. So on November 14th, which was World Diabetes Day, our Insulin for All advocates from across the globe, they came together to make demands for their life-sustaining medications like insulin and other supplies. And activities were organized and implemented in places like Brazil, Democratic Republic of Congo, Egypt, France, Nigeria, South Africa, Pakistan, Sierra Leone. In the United States, there were events in states like Connecticut, Washington, D.C., Ohio, New York, and lots of other places. So our volunteer leaders, they were also interviewed in places like South Africa, Nigeria, Brazil, Indiana, so many places where they were interviewed by the press for about their activities. And we managed to organize most of these events by participating in a mobilization, World Diabetes Day mobilization sessions at T1 International. And I'm going to hand over to Emma Bella to talk about these mobilization sessions.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much, Heather. It's so good to see you all and meet you all and celebrate an amazing year fighting for insulin affordability. My name is Emma Bella Rudd. I am from Florida and originally got involved with T1 International back in 2019 when I had met a fellow advocate and she introduced me to the organization. And so I originally started out with T1 International working at the state level in Florida. And I have since moved to Washington, D.C., where I am a co-lead for the D.C. Insulin for All chapter. And so excitingly, the T1 International this year, held their World Diabetes Day mobilization. And this was a exclusive training series focused on building skills, confidence, and network to plan major events in their community. And this included recruitment, media pitching, media engagement, messaging, and more. So T1 International advocates from India, Pakistan, Tanzania, and the US also shared stories and calls to action on a World Diabetes Day webinar. They shared more about the fight for access and affordability, lessons from successful campaigns around the world, and the knowledge and understanding of how this fight looks in different places. Now, as you maybe are very well aware of, it's been an unprecedented year in Washington. And so planning an event, we started prior to the government shutdown. And so our team kind of came together and a lot of our focus has been on, patent reform. And so we were planning to hopefully hold a press conference on Capitol Hill with senators who have sponsored patent legislation. But kind of seeing down the pipeline and what was to come was the government shutdown. And so we had to pivot, even though, we were drafting all this exciting, initiatives and work for this event. We knew, unfortunately, that was probably not going to be possible since the government shutdown did last quite a long time. And so, as a team, we coordinated and explored other ideas. We decided to partner with Patients for Affordable Drugs. They're another really great nonprofit organization that works for prescription drug affordability overall. And so we held with them like a media campaign, posting patient testimony and stories. And then we held a World Diabetes Day panel with a few panelists that talked about their experiences. We had two panelists that are type 1 and a panelist that is type 2. And it was very representative of, we talked through, different experiences, living with type 1 diabetes, what affordability and access means to them, and possible reform they could see down the pipeline. We also explored the idea of fundraising, but unfortunately, with the government shutdown, there was a little bit more hesitancy in DC to hold these. But thankfully enough, we've established really great relationships with some businesses, and so hopefully in the new year, we can explore those options. But it was an incredible experience, and I think as an advocate, we must stay resilient amongst all this change that's happening, and pivot and lean on our team and our friends to work together on this and make make the change happen even when things are a little bit more unprecedented. So But thank you so much. And I'm going to hand it over to Allison to talk through our next topic, public pharma.
Wow, thank you, Emma, Bella, and everybody who's already shared. I'm just feeling really inspired, which always happens when we're able to all gather in a virtual space together. But I am Allison Hart. I'm the Community Development Director with T1 International, based in Portland, Oregon. And I started with T1I as a volunteer and have been on staff for over 5 years now. And it's been an incredible journey. I'm in this work because my partner, Matthew, has just marked 40 years with type 1 this year. So he is definitely my motivation, inspiration, along with the full community of people who are impacted by this. So um, and we've already talked about it a little bit, but just, yeah, definitely public pharma has been a huge priority in the past year for T1 International. And so you may be wondering why. What is public pharma and why is it so important? And so we talk about this a lot, but because there are only three main companies that manufacture insulin, they really have held this effective monopoly, so they can raise prices really high. And while it costs less than $10 for a sustainable cost-based price for high quality insulin pens, people in our community have reported paying over $130 on average, which means that some are paying much more than that, as many of us in this room know. And because there are only these three companies, they can also stop manufacturing insulin. So Chris mentioned this earlier, but that really leaves patients in a lurch when companies like Novo Nordisk, who is one of the big three insulin manufacturers, announces, as they did earlier this year, that they're phasing out human insulin pens, for example, and also long-acting insulin Levemir. So these are insulins that people depend on, and we need reliable plans to replace those. So that's why at T1 International, we are calling for more competition and more competitors in the market. That increases safety, it lowers costs, and it increases access. So the best way to do this is to have the government procure or manufacture and distribute essential medicines and supplies to make sure that folks have what they need. So we've really been winning with this, and I'm going to pass it to Sarah to tell us more about how.
Thank you, Alison. Hi, everyone. I'm Sara Gaspar. I'm based in Brazil, and I'm T1 International's advocacy consultant for Latin America. Very happy to see people from all over the world here, and I see some Brazilian faces too. So Brazil has been expanding public pharma capacity, which includes a dengue vaccine that is 100% domestically produced in Brazil. In a bold move, Brazil's government announced in February this year that they will produce human and glargine insulin in the country through a public pharma endeavor, which is great. We're very happy to hear about it. We have shared the progress we made on public pharma for insulin by publishing a lot of press and speaking at different conferences and events throughout the year, and we plan to do that in 2026 too. Another win is that the US state of Arizona is joining Washington, Oregon, Ohio, and others in a multi-state public pharma collab called ArrayRx. And in an exciting step for alternatives to the big three, like that has been mentioned a couple times already, and exciting step for public pharma in the US, Civica is collaborating with Biocon Biologics to deliver insulin aspart and glargine. So now I'll hand over to Max.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Allison. Thanks, everybody, for joining. It's so nice to see all these faces. My name is Max. I am the chapter leader for T1 International's Insulin for All chapter in New York State. We kind of restarted the chapter just over a year ago, and really early on, it became clear that the idea that energized so many of us in the chapter that we really wanted to throw our efforts behind was going to be winning public pharma in New York State. It was just this big, bold, transformative solution that we felt challenge the big three's monopoly, would make insulin more affordable for us, and then would also put us in the position to advocate for other people who have chronic illnesses that rely on these price gouged drugs. So this all started kind of last year, and thanks entirely to the help from the T1 team and then a lot of our allies who we've brought into the fold, we've started to build a really, really exciting campaign. Started by working with our legislators and our allies in New York State, having a strategy session, which is that photo you see of those smiling faces, over the summer, and then all that work leading into an event in the fall that we hosted alongside NYU which is a university here in New York City, that really presented our case for public pharma to the public. We had over 250 RSVPs, 100 people in the room, legislators who came and spoke with us. It was a really powerful moment of talking to the public about why we as diabetics need this legislation to pass. And we are continuing that energy on into this year, where the legislative session in New York starts in January, and we will be fighting and I'm sure winning public pharma in New York State. And I'm incredibly excited, incredibly grateful to the support that the T1I team has given us. And with that, I will pass this along to Lib.
Awesome. Thanks, Max. I get so fired up and just super excited talking about public pharma. So my name is Lib Gadi. I'm the USA Advocacy Manager for T1 International, and I support our chapters to build strong groups and run powerful campaigns. This year, 2 of our USA chapters took time for big retreats to design strategic campaigns in order to win public pharma in their state. So you just heard about Max's experience in New York, and we also laid the groundwork for a really powerful campaign in Ohio through a day-long retreat in November for World Diabetes Day. Strategy retreats are an amazing tool for our groups because they allow us to step back and really view the wider landscape we're working within. They help us establish clear goals, concrete next steps, delegate responsibilities across the group, and develop new skills while deepening our relationships. So if we're going to win our campaigns for something as big and important as public pharma, it's really worth our time to step back and make a solid plan for how we're going to do that. Public pharma is so inspiring to me because it takes out a pillar of the for-profit pharmaceutical industry that exploits us by putting the manufacturing, purchasing, and/or distribution of the drugs we need to survive into the hands of us, the members of the public. And we saw a lot of progress this year with our various global campaigns for public pharma, and I'm so excited that 2026 is going to be the year that we at T1 International mobilize around and put our resources and our capacity towards moving these public pharma goals forward. So now I'm really pleased to pass the mic to Stephanie, who can talk more about the groundwork we've been laying for public pharma with patent reform mobilization in the United States.
Thank you so much, Lib. Hi, everyone. I'm so excited to be here with you all, celebrating our last year of the powerful advocacy that we've all participated in. So my name is Stephanie, and I currently volunteer as outreach lead with the Utah Insulin for All chapter. I just had my 41st diaversary on the 7th of this month, and my husband and son have type 1 diabetes as well. One of the reasons why we really need public pharma is because the big 3 insulin manufacturers have so much monopoly control over making these essential medicines. They use patents to keep this control and keep prices high. Patents are a type of intellectual property that gives an inventor exclusive rights to make and sell an invention like a medicine. And patents are supposed to encourage innovation and spur invention. However, in the United States, patents have been abused for decades to keep prices high. That's why T1 International is taking action to stop patent abuses, including opposing bad patent bills and supporting meaningful federal patent reforms. These patent reforms are essential for increasing competition, lowering prices, and implementing public pharma. I'm a member of T1 International's Federal Working Group, a group of patient advocates from around the country acting as an advisory board for T1 International and leading our U.S. federal strategy and advocacy. And for the past few years, we've been really focused on patent reforms. I'll now hand it over to a fellow Federal Working Group member, Nicole.
Thanks, Stephanie. So my name is Nicole Smith-Holt, and I am from Richfield, Minnesota, and I am not a type 1 diabetic, but I came to the organization to advocate for access to affordable insulin after the loss of my 26-year-old son, Alex Smith, from rationing. I am not only a member of T1 International's Federal Working Group, I'm also the ambassador for T1 International. And I also lead Families United for Affordable Insulin, a group of people who have lost loved ones due to insulin rationing. This matter is really important and personal to us. That's why the Federal Working Group and Families United came together during the first few days of Congress to take action on patent reform. Over 5 days, 24 people in T1 International's Federal Working Group, Fight for Five Working Group, Families United for Affordable Insulin Group, and staff descended upon DC for a retreat and training. We held an action and held almost 50 lobbyist meetings. It was a busy time to be there with the RFK vote happening while we had our lobby day. However, energy remained high and powerful throughout the convening, with many participants reflecting significant success on our goals of relationship building. We feel that we also did significant skill building on top of our US advocates and got lots of practice working together. So now I'll pass it on to Courtney from the Federal Working Group to talk about patent mobilization.
Hi, everyone. My name is Courtney, and I am the new Vermont chapter leader. I have lived with type 1 diabetes for 30 years, and I first got involved and trained up with T1 International by being part of our patent mobilization this summer. In the mobilization, I was one of 24 T1 International advocates from across the United States. We led our entire T1 International community in taking action to stop bad patent policies like PARA, which would overturn the Supreme Court precedent and expand patent eligible subject matter to encompass abstract ideas, laws of nature, and natural phenomena, and by pushing for good patent reforms. We held dozens of lobby meetings and publishing op-eds in local papers. Overall, we sent almost 4,000 letters to members of Congress from constituents sharing our stories as people with lived experience of insulin access. While we haven't passed patent reforms just yet, we are going to continue to work on it. I will now hand it over to Ty.
Hi, everyone. I'm Ty Berenger here in Fayetteville, Arkansas. I've lived with type 1 diabetes for 30 years now, and I've been involved with T1 International since 2020. Like a few others on this call, I'm a member of the Federal Working Group, and earlier this year, we also coordinated some efforts at the state level. Insulin for All advocates in 17 states, as shown here, advocated advocated against their attorneys general to challenge updated regulations to Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act. After a concerted effort by our community and activists across the disability justice movement, the states involved said they're no longer challenging the constitutionality of Section 504. This concession shows the power that the disability community's advocacy has. It's a great victory, one of many this year, and now I'll hand it over to Chris to share about our out-of-pocket expenses and rationing survey.
Thanks, Ty. Hi, everyone. Chris here again. And so every other year since 2016, we've conducted a survey for our community to see how much people are paying and how much they're rationing essential diabetes medicines and supplies. So our latest survey was conducted in 2024, and it showed that nearly 37%, or 1/3, of respondents reported rationing insulin due to cost and really placing their lives at serious risk. So our report highlights the stark disparity between pharma public relation narratives and lived reality. So despite promises from pharmaceutical companies and global institutions, the insulin affordability crisis is far from over and in fact getting worse. Double rationing rates from when we started collecting this data back in 2016. And so globally, people with type 1 diabetes are spending an average of 12% of their income on insulin and glucose self-monitoring supplies. We at T1 International think that should be no more than 5%, and that's why we have been running our Fight for Five campaign for the past few years. Survey respondents in high-income countries spent an average of 9% of their income on insulin and glucose monitoring supplies, compared to over 60% for those in low and lower middle-income countries. So this out-of-pocket expenses and rationing survey report was presented at conferences around the world. We had Montreal, Geneva, Bangkok, Rio, Karachi, all shown in these wonderful pictures here. And so if you haven't read our report yet, you can do so with the link. It'll be dropped in the chat. And we're really excited as we are going to begin collecting new data in 2026. And we're doing it with a really big and super global team. We're starting a cohort of research fellows. So here on the screen, you'll see all of the lovely people who are going to be fellows. They're going to be helping designing the survey, disseminating, analyzing, translating all the pieces that we've been doing here in our tiny team. We're expanding that to wonderful advocates like you. In fact, some of you who are fellows are on this call right now. So really excited to go into this next year to work on this, and we'll keep you all informed so that you can help share the survey and get as many responses as possible in 2026. So now I'm going to hand it over to Ollie to talk more about continuous glucose monitoring devices.
Thank you, Chris, and thank you, everyone. I just want to, before I start, to say that I'm so proud of you all. I'm Ali Hisham. I'm the Region Advocacy Consultant for T1 International for the MENA region, and I've been living with type 1 diabetes for 12 years. I'm Egypt Insulin for All country chapter lead. The chapter was established in 2025 with its first action being petition calling on Abbott to improve the pricing and availability of Freestyle Libre continuous glucose monitoring sensors in Egypt and the MENA region. Abbott has increased the prices of CGM sensors by 200% in less than 2 years. So the monthly cost of using these sensors is now 6,700 EGP, while the minimum monthly wage is 7,000 EGP. So using CGM sensors costs 96% of the minimum wage in Egypt. This has forced many families, including those with children, to stop using CGM sensors, which significantly affected their diabetes management. T1 International Egypt Insulin for All chapter has been petitioning Abbott to make CGMs more affordable and available. The petition was delivered in English and Arabic, and we collected over 1,500 signatures before being delivered to Abbott for World Diabetes Day. If you're wondering if this number is small or big, this is a significant number and meaningful given the challenges around public civic engagement in many parts in the MENA region. And the work has been impactful as the president of Egypt issued a statement urging governmental officials to make CGMs available to children with type 1 diabetes. We didn't just hold Abbott accountable, but also other insulin and device manufacturers and governments. This summer, we ran a campaign directed at Novo Nordisk with the appointment of the new CEO. We sent an open letter with over 600 signatures, urging Novo Nordisk to call for them to increase access and affordability and to engage meaningfully with the global diabetes community. We also called out Eli Lilly, Green, spoke at the UN, and so much more. And our long history of holding governments and corporations accountable to uphold human rights is seen as a threat, unfortunately. Last year, T1 International received a subpoena from the United States Federal Trade Commission regarding investigation they were doing against certain healthcare companies, showing the fear that big pharma and government having our powerful and impactful work. So now I'll say Insulin for All and hand over to Janice.
Thanks, Ali. Truly inspiring and powerful testimonies from everyone. Hi, I'm Janice. I've been living with type 1 diabetes for 44 years. Most people living with diabetes in our public healthcare system still cannot access adequate insulin and glucose monitoring supplies, which is why we need to get to work. I lead one of the new chapters of T1 International in South Africa. Being a chapter and building power in our country means that South Africa's Competition Commission is finally investigating anti-competitive practices across South Africa's insulin market. This happened because of patients sharing their stories and the collaboration with MSF, Doctors Without Borders, and TAC, the Treatment Action Campaign here in South Africa. Our actions included a T1 International petition, a World Diabetes Day protest, several interviews, as well as many articles being published. But MSF is just one of the many, many organizations who we work with at T1 International. This slide is just some of the organizations who provided training, provided meeting space, answered our questions, helped our campaigns, ran research partnerships, and even represented us in the court of law. A huge thank you. Now we're expanding. Our work never ends, so our network is expanding as well. We started as a chapter last year in South Africa, but other new #Insulin for All chapters this year include Egypt, and we just heard from Ali now, Vermont, Indiana, and Metro DC. We also welcomed 3 new advocacy partners, Kivu Diabetes Center in the Democratic Republic of Congo, which you'll hear from in a few minutes, Diabetes Advocacy and Support Community in Nigeria, a network of persons living with diabetes also in Nigeria. And as you've heard from our work in South Africa, and let's not forget our EML success, storytelling is extremely important. And that's why we do our new Advocate Speakers Bureau. I was part of the first Speakers Bureau, and I was transformed by the exceptional training. Our new Advocate Speakers Bureau cohorts are majority people in the Global South, including patients and prescribers. And everyone shared stories and experiences of living with diabetes and their fight for insulin access and affordability. T1 International is only offering one new Advocate Speakers Bureau in 2026 in January. So be sure to sign up today if you want to be a part of that. And I can assure you, you want to be a part of that. I'll now hand it over to Dr. Albert, who did our new Advocate Speakers Bureau this summer.
Thank you, dear Janice, for sharing those stories, and thank you to everyone. My name is Kalezo Albert, and I'm a doctor in Bukavu, in the Democratic Republic of Congo. I'm a physician and the director of the Kivu Diabetes Center. Even in the best of time, finding insulin is difficult and it's too expensive. This past year, the war has made a bad situation catastrophic. When the Goma airport was destroyed, the main supply chain routes for medicine was cut off and prices surged. I saw personally 5 young people die due to insulin shortages. This summer, I joined T1 International's new Advocate Speaker Bureau. I then had the Kivu Diabetes Center join as an advocacy partner of T1 International. T1 International introduced me to other collaborators and partners who helped me to resolve the insulin shortage crisis and prevent multiple deaths. T1 International also helped me to share the story of our clinic in new coverage, highlighting the insulin shortages as the humanitarian crisis deepened in our region. I continue to provide care to people in my clinic, and I can testify how insulin changed life, as shown in these pictures. I also organize a large in-person conference for World Diabetes Day. Fortunately, I have amazing news that I will be the youngest recipient of the prestigious Alandrage Fellowship from ISPAD, and I will complete my diabetology fellowship in Luxembourg in January and February. Thank you. I will now hand it over to Mridula to share about other activities that we did for World Diabetes Day.
Thank you, Dr. Albert. Hello, everyone. My name is Mridula. I'm based in Delhi, India, and I'm the founder of Diabetes Fighters Trust, that is also a global advocacy partner with T1 International. Um, Recently, efforts by our organization, Diabetes Fighters Trust, along with other organizations, won a 5-year-long campaign to reform tax law in India to make diabetes devices and supplies more affordable and accessible. A change from 12 to 18% goods and services tax to just 5%. The tax reform is a positive step for sure, but challenges still persist on the ground. The cost of using insulin, glucometer strips, insulin pumps, and continuous glucose monitors still remains too expensive for most people in India. More advocacy is to come to include analog insulins on the National Essential Medicines list and in state policy lists. And very recently, we have been sending emails to the national leaders as a community for 3 months now, and will be delivering a hard copy of this letter along with signed from signatures from the entire community. Almost we have 600 plus signatures till now, and we'll be delivering it to the national leaders with the letter of support very soon. And now I would like to hand over to the T1 International's Chair of the Board of Trustees for sharing about some operations. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And hi, everyone. My name is Melissa Passarelli, and I am the chair of T1 International's Board of Trustees. I've been living with type 1 diabetes for 26 years and had been involved in the New York chapter before joining the board a few years ago. It's really nice to be here. And I can't believe how much things have changed over the years. In fact, just a year ago, T1 International had 2 entities, as you may recall. This year, we closed our UK operations officially and consolidated our operations to be all based in one country organizationally and financially to just make sure that we could focus more efforts on our programs. Of course, we're still working in many countries around the world, and in 2025, we had members of our team in more countries than ever, representing 7 different countries. This year, we hired Heather as the regional advocacy consultant in Africa. Heather is located in Zimbabwe and has been living with type 2 diabetes since 2013 and has been involved in diabetes advocacy globally since 2017. So we're so grateful to have you, Heather. Also in 2026, Chris and Lib are moving down to part-time. We'll also say goodbye to Maham as the co-lead of the Fight for Five working group as we transition to the public pharma working group, which you'll hear more about in a little bit. We will be welcoming many new members to our board of trustees this year as well. Over the next year, 4 longtime trustees are terming off our board. So that means that the number of years they're legally allowed to serve on the board, they will have served. And so they'll have to leave the board. That's Heather, Matt, Ola, and Cameron. This is hot off the presses. We just invited and voted in 7 new trustees to join our board in 2026. That includes Aisha Sykes from Tanzania, Anwar from Pakistan, Brian Hegarty from the US and soon to be Ireland, Peter Maberduk from the US, Rachel Madley from the US, Dr. Victor Montori from the US and originally from Peru, and Dr. Yasmin Ibrahim from Egypt. They bring significant nonprofit management, advocacy, web design, connections, fundraising experience. So we are so excited to have them. And now I'm going to hand it over to another board member, Kendall Dallas. Kendall, it seems like we can't hear you. Can other folks hear Kendall? No, yeah. It shows that you're speaking, but I can't hear you. So I don't know what's going on. It's a problem I've never seen before. Nope. Melissa, do you mind continuing on in this section? I'm so sorry, Kendall. I really have never seen this before.
Last test. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, there we go. Great.
All right, try again. Sorry, everyone. Thank you for your patience. My name is Kendall Dallas. I joined the T1 International Board last year as a trustee, and I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes 4 years ago come January. And I love T1 International because of all the joy and community making when we're searching for fixes with these warp systems that everyone is working against. It's really inspiring to be surrounded by so many awesome humans. So, after a decade of grassroots organizing, storytelling, advocacy, and action, we worked with over 100 people in focus groups, interviews, surveys, and group discussions to draft our new long term strategic plan in English, French, and Spanish for how T1 International will continue to lead the fight for insulin access, affordability, and care through 2030. We're proud of this work, which reflects the voices and expertise of our global community, centers the experiences of people living with diabetes, and provides a clear roadmap for advocacy, partnerships, and programmatic growth over the next few years. So, what are we doing in 2026? We want to note we have less capacity as an organization, so we are cutting a few things back, but being really intentional with our focus. We are so excited that 2026 will be the year of public pharma. We will be focusing significantly on this one campaign because we think that we can build a more powerful movement when we focus. We want to continue focusing on winning public pharma and supporting skilled leaders and building people power. Again, due to our funding and our team size, we will be doing fewer programming, including not running any broad-based trainings or webinars. However, we are very excited in 2026. We are wrapping up our Five for Fighting working group. We will be doing a new Advocate Speakers Bureau cohort we heard about earlier. Please apply. We will be running our out-of-pocket expenses and rationing survey with our research team that you heard before. And we will launch a public pharma working group, and we will continue to run our federal working group. We will also continue supporting other groups that are building people power in our goal for public pharma transformation. So that's our plan for 2026. Again, thank you for hanging in there with my technology issues. Now I want to transition to Heather and Kate to talk about finances.
Thanks, Kendall. So first off, I'm Kate Pitterbecki. I am based in Portland, Oregon in the United States. I am T1 International's operations manager, and I've been on the team since 2020. I've also been living with type 1 diabetes for 24 years.
And I'm Heather Robinson. I am the trustee and the board treasurer for T1 International. I've been with the organization for over 5 years now, which is why I'm finally being booted off the board. I am not T1D, but I have a daughter who you saw on a previous slide who has been type 1 since she was 13. She got me involved, and I'm really proud to be here. And mostly I'm here to support Kate and answer any questions she doesn't want to handle.
Thanks, Heather. So we are not quite at the end of the year, but you will see from this slide where things currently stand as of December 1. So almost 60% of our income this year comes directly from people like you. That's individuals, donors, people running peer-to-peer fundraising campaigns on social media. And I think this really reflects the importance of our community's generosity and engagement and how important that is. So since December 1, we have also brought in funds from our November pledge drive, which was received in December and received from all of the incredible community fundraising that we did, which added an additional $11,451 to our peer-to-peer goal for the year. And we have also brought in an additional $11,000 in unrestricted grants. And we're not yet at the end of the year. It's not too late to give, which Shayna will be discussing later. However, you'll see from looking at the slide, we are spending far more than we're bringing in. For 2026, we are reducing operations. to reduce costs, and we will continue to really focus on fundraising. To mitigate rising costs, we have also moved more and more work continually to be in-house, and strategic planning has really allowed us to reduce those costs. So for 2025, we always have a commitment to financial transparency. And for this year, T1 International completed an audit for both the 2023 and 2024 calendar years. We have completed an audit every year since 2020, and all audits have resulted in clean findings, which is really a testament to T1 International's transparent and thorough financial reporting practices. As you'll see here, T1 International also holds a platinum seal through Candid GuideStar and a 4-star ranking on Charity Navigator. And just so you know, audited financial statements, as well as our Form 990, which is a federal tax return in the US, both are always available on our website. And as far as top-line operations for this year, T1 International is required to register to fundraise in all US states, which is an extremely detailed process that historically has been handled externally due to the level of detail and time involved. This year, we completed all registrations internally, which was a major cost-saving measure. We also developed an administrative fund to ensure that our reserve funds can be best utilized down the road. And the platform that our website is currently built on is being phased out. So we hope to create a website that is more reflective of our evolution, more accessible, and easier to navigate in 2026. And this year, we've really laid the groundwork for that. And then as far as 2026 planned income and expenditure, here you will see what we are anticipating for 2026. As you will see, we hope to see grants make up the most significant portion of our budget. However, it continues to be an increasingly difficult time to secure grant funding. And with that, this again reflects how much individual donors and fundraisers are important to our budget in continuing this work. For expenses, we are working really hard to continue to keep our budget as affordable as we can in the face of inflation and rising costs. And now I'll hand it back to you, Shayna.
Thanks so much, Kate and Heather. And thank you so much to everyone who's been speaking and joining us here today. I'm just, I've had prepared this slide and prepared with folks, and yet hearing it all together is just so powerful to hear everything that everyone has done this year. It's, and we were here for it. It's not like this is new information. We've been seeing it as it goes along, and it's just so inspiring. So thank you so much for sticking with us. We're almost at the end of our call. As Kate said, we are reliant on donors, individuals like you, for achieving our budget. And we are aiming to raise $7,500 from individuals before the end of the year. And we are so close. So you can help us get there today by donating today. So we're dropping that link in the chat in just a second. That can include company matches, payroll giving. You can start a quick fundraiser before the end of the year, or you can even pick up holiday gifts from our gift shop. Every donation, every gift fuels our fight for insulin for all. And thank you so much to so many folks who have been supporting us through the years in such significant ways. Before we wrap up, I want to just also make a pitch to hear your feedback. Your insights truly shape our work at T1 International, and we want you to know how seriously we take the feedback that you share with us. So over the past year, as we heard earlier, your feedback directly informed our long-term strategic plan. So we updated language around the type of diabetes that we serve and made clearer program pillars. It shaped our 2026 goals and our work plan, especially as we head into this year of public pharma. Your input strengthens our accessibility practices, adding screen text for screen readers. It also helped us build more inclusive New Advocate Speakers Bureau with storytelling support for neurodiverse community members. And it improved our orientation process by adding walkthroughs of our agreements, like so many things. This is just scratching the surface of the list. And at T1 International, we really believe that anything worth doing is worth evaluating. So please take a moment at the end of this call. The questions will pop up in your browser when the meeting ends, and share your thoughts or reactions with us there. You can also share any reflections in the chat as well. Your voice really helps make this movement stronger. And so thank you so much for being there and being there with us. So in a moment, we're going to end the screen share, but we'd like to take a group photo. So if you're futzing around somewhere else, we'd love to have you come on camera for that group photo now. A little bit of housekeeping. If you're a member of our community, if you requested a certificate, we will get that to you by the end of the year. If you are a member of our Global Advocacy Network, a working group, a chapter, a partner, a research fellow, for any other reason, you should have a DocuSign in your inbox now, or you should get it in the next day and a half here. So please fill out that DocuSign for your participation next year in the next month, so by January 17th. And you can just pull it up and sign it right now so you don't forget. It's called DocuSign. You can fill it out right there. And yeah, any other questions, comments, concerns, feedback you want to give outside of this, always feel free to contact our contact inbox email. So it's that time in our program where we close, but not before we have